Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod. We have Chris Roche with us today. Chris is CEO at Cess Consulting. We're going to talk about sales, marketing, B2B marketing, and marketing automation or sales automation today. This pod is brought to you by my podcasting company. If you want to start and scale your own podcast, you can go to podpire.com to monetize your pod the unconventional way. Chris, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Awesome. Thanks, Charles. I appreciate you having me on the podcast. Excited to get into things. As you mentioned, I'm a CEO of Cess Consulting. We're a revenue-centric digital marketing agency. We've been in operation for about 3 years now and work with a handful of growing B2B SaaS companies in the Series A to Series C range.
And what are your top goals for this year?
My number one goal for Catalyst this year is actually 100% team retention. We're building a really phenomenal team here at Catalyst, and one of my big goals is to make sure that we finish the year with the same team that we started the year with. So that's something that, obviously as an agency, typically there's a lot of turnover with internal team members. A lot of companies obviously going through a lot of layoffs right now. So for me, a big goal of mine is to make sure that we're finishing the year with the same team that started, and hopefully some more additions as well.
Services on your website here. So usually who's your ICP and how do you target them? Is it cold outreach? Is it LinkedIn outreach?
Yeah, so all B2B SaaS companies is really who we work with. The majority of our sales come from referrals. Our new clients will come from referrals. We have a very strong reputation in a lot of online communities and just in the industry itself. So for a lot of us, it's actually inbound is the way that we generate new business. We don't tend to do a lot of cold outreach. A lot of it is really referrals and recommendations from either current clients or partners in the space.
Hey, how do you grow or scale a business just doing that? You fully focus on your services and your product and you ask for a referral in 3 to 6 months down the line?
Yeah, a lot of it is making sure that the clients have a positive experience and making sure that the customers are really in a position where they want to refer you. We also have, in the industry, a lot of our points of contact move around a lot. So heads of marketing, their tenure is typically under 12 months at any given company, whereas our relationship with clients tends to extend that. So quite often what we've been finding is clients, individuals will leave certain companies, go to new companies, bring us into that company, and we maintain the existing relationships. So for us, it's been a lot of organic, kind of natural growth. There hasn't been a lot of focus on going after new clients, purely just because of our capacity limitations, being a small team that's kind of started from scratch, and we're a bootstrap company. So for us, it's always been about how we can grow sustainably. Going into 2024, we will be putting some more effort into our own outbound advertising. We will be doing some more prospecting, I would say, on our side, and starting to have conversations with people maybe a little bit earlier on than we would have ever done in the past.
And you offered like growth as a service and ad spend sort of agency. Why don't you invest some of these dollars yourself to grow your own agency?
Yeah, to be honest, the reason we've not really invested in our own advertising to date is just there hasn't really been a need to. We've constantly had more demand than we've been able to serve, so there hasn't really been a lot of sense for ourselves to invest into it. But yeah, for all of our clients that obviously are not limited by being a service-based business, at that point we've been able to help them grow pretty quickly using paid advertising. And it's always something that we joke internally as to when we have the capacity to be able to grow, it's the one lever that we've never really pulled, and it's what we do best. So it's kind of ironic that we have never actually been in a position where we've been able to do that for ourselves. But hopefully in 2024, the goal is to be in a position where we can start to scale a little bit more quickly, get some of the key team members in the right places, and then be able to, start to invest in our own advertising as well.
Mention on your LinkedIn that you have one outreach as a goal, which is 100% team retention. How does one do that?
I think it starts with creating just a company culture that people want to stay at and want to buy into the company. For us, it's always been about creating one common goal with the company and making sure that everybody is continuing to progress their own career internally rather than having to look external for promotions. So when people are doing good jobs, we promote them. When people are succeeding in certain areas, we encourage them to take on more responsibility. And it's that sense of ownership in the company that I think we have been able to create, very, very early on, and create that sense of community. And that's something that I think a lot of smaller companies struggle to create. And for us, it's training people to the point where they can do their job, and if not more, and putting the things around them where they want to stay, versus that they feel trapped to have to stay, or fearful of losing what they have at the moment.
And having the choice, where would be my greatest return per ad dollar spent? Meta, Google Ads, TikTok. What's the platform you see that is the best return? Especially not just ad spend dollar, but return out of my energy. Because Facebook, for example, they've been banning accounts and shit. So where should I invest my money as a SaaS startup or an agency, let's say?
As a SaaS startup, the first place I would look would be Google Ads, and I would just look at high intent demand capture and just go after very relevant high intent search terms. Know what's profitable for you, know where you can get qualified opportunity and pipeline out of that, and then double down on that platform, and really expand it to the point where you can't spend any more. For some clients and for some customers and some SaaS companies, there's going to be instances where you might only be able to spend 10, 15,000 a month on Google Ads until really you start to move into more of that medium intent. For some companies, it's going to be hundreds of thousands, not millions, on demand capture. So it really depends on the industry that you're in. Google Ads on demand capture is where I would initially start. If we were, said, hey, in February we're going to start investing into paid advertising, that's what I would start off with. And then I also start to invest into LinkedIn. For me as a domain authority in marketing and in digital marketing for B2B SaaS companies, for me, it would be about expanding my own personal presence on LinkedIn versus Catalyst, because the fact that I'm the face of the company, I am going to who is going to attract clients to Catalyst, and then we have trained a team behind me to be able to really capitalize on that. So I would look to kind of split some of the budget onto LinkedIn as well for brand awareness.
You run your business and you travel at the same time. How's been that? Where did the idea came about, the plan, and then how's the execution of that and living that life?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, I live and travel in an RV full time. My wife and I have just surpassed 1 year of doing that. The idea, actually, we actually looked at it during COVID. We had the paperwork to sign an RV in COVID and ended up not going through with it. And then after COVID, we kind of went the traditional route of you get married, you buy a house, kids are kind of the next step. And we were sat there and we bought a house. We've been there for about a year. My wife was working an office job at the time, and I was just starting Catalyst. And I was sat there and I was watching this elderly gentleman in the neighborhood. He would always walk around the neighborhood 3 times every morning, and I'm sat drinking my coffee. And it's about 12 months of watching him do this over and over again. And I was sat there and I thought, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I can't sit here. And it was too early to be settled. So we were really looking at how do we travel, how do we move around, what do we want to accomplish with this, and how do we not have this feeling of feeling trapped. We also, my wife is from Wisconsin, where if you've ever had a Wisconsin winter, it's absolutely brutally cold. So that was something that we always knew we wanted to escape, and an RV became one of the logical options. We bought a really old, 17-year-old RV, completely kitted it out, renovated it, right from kind of stripped down to kind of the bare bones on the inside, and completely renovated it for about 6 months before we went off in it. Went off in it for 6 months, and realized we really liked RV living, but we needed more space. We wanted a bigger RV. So this summer we actually bought a 42-foot fifth wheel travel trailer, which is a fifth wheel trailer, which is a lot larger RV. My wife and I now both work full time remotely, and are now in a position where we have 2 desks set up in here. I'm sat at the desk at the moment, and we've really managed to make it work. Wi-Fi has never really been an issue for us, and for me, I have monitors, cameras, laptops, everything you kind of need, and we do it on the road now, so it's not really affected a lot of the day to day. Only I tend to change the location of where I'm kind of calling in from a lot.
And you've taken a break for the first time in your career, I feel, as an entrepreneur. So how was that psychologically?
It was weird. Yeah, my family came out. I'm on my third company at the moment, so I've exited two companies. Callus is my third company. I've always kind of been just in the grind, really. So I rarely take time off over Christmas. I usually find projects to work on and use that as kind of housekeeping time. So for Thanksgiving and Christmas this year, my family came out from England, and I'm now finally at a point where I have a team that can really handle a lot of the day to day versus before it was me consulting and it was really I was the product versus being an agency. It was a consulting gig, so it was quite a strange feeling to finally be in that position where I could take time off, and it was good. I mean, I enjoyed doing it, but I was ready to kind of come back into it and ready to kind of have quite an explosive 2024 is the goal. So there's a lot of ambition that we have in 2024. So I was kind of chomping at the bit to get back into it.
You also run a podcast. How do you prepare for a pod? How do you get to ask the best question to a guest?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I have a virtual assistant that handles a lot of the research on the guests for the podcasts. So a lot of that is actually outsourced now. I don't handle a lot of that day to day. And for me, podcasting is a way to really have more of a natural conversation than specifically questions. Like I view it more as a really a back and forth when we're doing it as well. So for a lot of the interviews that I'm doing, I interview agency owners. We talk about running agencies. Advice for people that want to start their own agency. So it's a lot more of, for me, I get a lot out of it of interviewing larger agency owners and understanding more about that agency and how they've been able to grow, but also be able to kind of talk about our mutual experiences that we've been through. And hopefully that helps, either earlier agency owners or people that are on the fence about starting and maybe need that push to kind of kick in the right direction.
Forgot to ask you, but what's the ups and the downs of living full time in an RV? Like you get the views, the pure air, the being in nature, but you also get the long hours of travel and yeah, sometimes technical issues. So yeah, is it worth it? And what are the ups and the downs?
Yeah, I mean it's 100% worth it. The ups are definitely, like you say, the ability to visit places. My wife and I, I think we're on our sixth or seventh national park since we've started. There's a lot of that side of things that we really like. Hiking. We've been in lots of different states now. We escaped the winter. Right now we're down in Arizona and we'll be here until mid mid to end of March, and then we'll actually start to head north, hopefully, as the weather turns a little bit to try and do the West Coast a bit more. So, yeah, the ability to travel and see things is definitely the huge plus side. Negatives, you are in a small space. I mean, there's no denying it. It's a couple 100 feet, so it's a small space to be living and working. The commute from the bedroom to the office is about 9 feet, so there is a tendency to always be able to check work as well. I actually think you probably work more hours in an RV than you would do in an office at home because you really can't close the door to it. It's kind of always there, so that's something that you have to be cognitive of and make an effort to have that separation. And then there's always a feeling of you have to make the most of where you're at, and sometimes it's nice to just relax on the weekend and not go and do a 10-mile hike and go to a national park. Like sometimes it's nice just to be able to relax. So that's why when we come down here to Arizona, we're actually not moving for the next 2 months. So this is a place where we'll be here for 2 months just to kind of chill and be somewhere. Whereas for the last year, we've basically moved on the dot every 3 to 4 weeks. We've consistently moved new locations. So we're quite excited to just be settled for, at least for a month or two before we head off again.
Right. You talk about ambitions earlier. What are your life's ambitions? Like, what are the next seasons ahead of you?
In terms of life ambition, I'm enjoying building a team and growing Catalyst. Catalyst is my main focus at the moment. I do have another company on the side that's completely different industry. It's a company that I'm more of a passive investor in, but it's something that we're seeing good growth with, and I'm excited to kind of see how that continues to grow. We have rental properties in Wisconsin, and that's something that I'd like to continue to grow in that avenue as well. But really, for me, it's maintaining a healthy balance. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life and have suffered at times with the overworking and burnout and committing too much of myself to projects. And it's something that now as 29 years old, I'm more aware of, and definitely more cognitive of, and a little bit more careful of how much time I do commit to things. So for me, having that balance and being able to continue to do what we do and have the freedom is what I would say is the most important part. And just continuing to, hopefully grow companies that are doing well and thriving, and have a good culture and good team that, people that want to work for us and do a great job with, when they do come and work with us.
You talk about these challenges. What have they been specifically, and how did you overcome these?
Challenges with starting companies.
Yeah, everything.
Oh,
Challenges mostly related to startup, I guess, because you invest most of your time into that. But yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's the obvious one of, when you start a company, you have zero revenue. So you have to go get customers. That's quite a big challenge. So, usually the first 3 months are a bit of a mess financially to try and do that. We've had challenges with people not working out, having to part ways. We've had clients that just haven't been a good fit for us and we've had to fire. There's always a new challenge. I feel like as an entrepreneur, there's always a new obstacle, and we're a team of 12 right now, and I've grown it from just myself consulting kind of part time to that stage, and it's the challenges don't seem to get any less often as you grow the company. It's now bigger and more expensive challenges that we have to solve, but it's still weekly challenges that we do have to kind of address, and it's a never ending, I feel like, battle of overcoming obstacles, to the point where hopefully it does start to get easier as you continue to grow the company and hit certain levels. But it's also, I think you have to take some enjoyment out of the problem solving if you do want to be successful as an entrepreneur. Otherwise, I think you may be in the wrong field if you don't enjoy problem solving.
What are you reading nowadays? How do you grow that brain of yours?
Yeah, a lot of it for me is podcasts, to be honest, more than anything. I don't read very often. I listen to audiobooks. I would love to sit down, and read, and just for me, I just don't really have that much time to be able to do that. So it's more audiobooks when I'm walking the dog. I like to be more active with it than, kind of sitting down. I spend a lot of my day at the desk sat down, so kind of throughout the day, so I don't always like to then necessarily sit down and read a book. I prefer to listen to an audiobook. I've listened to a lot of audiobooks. Some of them have been, business advice. Some of them have been more on the kind of the mental fortitude. Some of them have been more on team building and kind of how to, build those types of teams. A lot of the ones that I like to, or I think I've taken a lot of out of, have been some of the, the classics of some of the Navy SEAL books. The kind of the classic ones that a lot of people have read. The 4 Hour Work Week, I think, was very interesting to hear some of that, and I think there are ways that you can apply certain parts of that to your life as well. And then I like to really just listen to a lot of podcasts of talking about professional athletes, people who are at the top of their game. That to me, it's the mental side of getting to the top of the game that I find very interesting. I was a college athlete, and had some exposure to that, and now taking some of those lessons into business, I think is quite interesting, seeing a lot of those comparisons as well.
Chris, where can we find out more information about you and your company?
Yeah, best place to find out about me is going to be LinkedIn. It's where I spend the majority of my time as a social media. LinkedIn is, search for Chris Roche or Cess Consulting. That's really going to be the best place to kind of learn more about me. We share obviously a lot of the podcasts that I go on to, as well as producing content on there as well. I do have some stuff on Instagram and TikTok, but to be honest, I've fallen off on a lot of that at the moment. So LinkedIn would probably be the best place to learn more about me.